Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September 27th legislative session of the Salisbury City Council. I'd like to call the meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone and an announcement about in case of an emergency. If there is an emergency, we ask that you leave the chamber in an orderly fashion, make a right-hand turn, go to the end of the hallway and down the stairs. If for some reason that is blocked, please make a left-hand turn out of the chamber, then a right to the end of the stairs, to the end of the hallway, and then down the stairs. Please do not use the elevators if there is an emergency. If you need special assistance, please let us know, and it will be provided to you. At this time, please rise and join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, please join me in a moment of silent meditation or prayer. Thank you. I want to entertain a motion to approve and adopt the legislative agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Blake, Ms. Jackson. I'll call the motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Chair votes aye. Legislative agenda is passed by a vote of 5-0. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So move.
Second.
Ms. Jackson, Mr. Boda. Good evening, Ms. Nichols.
Good evening. On the consent agenda for tonight, we have the September 7th, 2021 work session minutes, September 13th, 2021 legislative session minutes, resolution number 3124 to approve the reappointment of Alexander McCrae to the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee for term ending October 2024, resolution number 3125 to approve the reappointment of Jane S.W. Messenger to the Historic District Commission for term ending October 2024, and resolution number 3126 to approve the appointment of Lee Yanis to the Zoo Commission for term ending September 2024.
Thank you, Ms. Nichols.
Thank you.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of the consent agenda as read, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The chair votes aye. The consent agenda is approved by a vote of 5-0. I'd like to thank Mr. McCrae, Ms. Messenger, and Mr. Yanis for serving on our boards and commissions, and thank you for your service. We appreciate it very much. Before I go any further, I was remiss in not recognizing one of our esteemed guests tonight, County Councilman John Cannon. Welcome, John. Nice to have you here. I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution number 3127.
So
So
move.
moved. Second.
Ms. Jackson, Mr. Boda. Ms. Glantz.
My packet is not aligning. What page does this start on? I'm having trouble.
Is it 4?
Page
No, sorry.
36.
Usually just search for the resolution number.
Thank you.
37.
37 is the, hold on. 39 is the resolution.
Hang on a second, my thing's
According to Salisbury.md.
sorry about this.
That's okay.
Bye.
We'll take it out of your paycheck.
Might be easier to search the resolution number.
Okay, here we go. Better hurry up.
All right. Resolution number 3127, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, authorizing the City of Salisbury's comprehensive connection charges to be waived for the development of 117-119 West Main Street, whereas SBY Distillery Corp. has requested a waiver of comprehensive connection charges for the proposed development of 117-119 West Main Street, and whereas the proposed development is located within the municipal limits of the city of Salisbury and the Central Business Zoning District, and whereas the city seeks to encourage development and redevelopment in the Central Business Zoning District, and whereas the city seeks to reduce the comprehensive connection charges for eligible development and redevelopment in the Central Business Zoning District when specific criteria is met, and whereas the City Council approved a comprehensive connection charge waiver process under Ordinance number 2611 for the development in the Central Business Zoning District, and whereas the project requires a total of 28 equivalent dwelling units of water and sewer service, and whereas the current comprehensive connection charge for one equivalent dwelling unit is $3,710, and whereas the comprehensive connection charges for 28 equivalent dwelling units is $103,880, and whereas the project meets the waiver eligibility criteria set forth in Ordinance number 2611, in that the project is located within the Central Business District, the project constitutes new development and/or revitalization of existing building. The project does not receive a capacity fee waiver for the public sponsor or affordable housing. The Director of Infrastructure and Development confirms that the project complies or will comply with the applicable zoning and building code criteria, stormwater management code provisions, and all the requirements of the Salisbury Historic District Commission. The project meets the objectives identified in the Envision Salisbury Master Plan, adopted via Resolution 2600, dated March 17th, 2016, as amended. And the project provides a public benefit by funding public streetscaping elements and public amenities. And whereas the Director of Infrastructure and Development has recommended the waiver of the comprehensive connection charge for the project and submitted the aforesaid allocation and waiver requested to the mayor for approval, which approval has been granted. And whereas pursuant to Ordinance 2611, this resolution is now ready for review and approval by the Council of the City of Salisbury.
Thank you, Ms. Nichols. Questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of resolution number 3127, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The chair votes aye. Resolution number 3127 is approved by a vote of 5-0. I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 3128.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Boda and Ms. Jackson. Ms. Goins.
Resolution number 3128, a resolution of the Council of the City of Salisbury authorizing the mayor to enter into, on behalf of the City of Salisbury, an agreement with St. Peter's Episcopal Church and the Lodge Wicomico number 91 AF and AM for the City of Salisbury's construction and installation of a handicap access ramp at the rear entrance of the downtown Salisbury Visitor Center building and other matters relating thereto. Whereas St. Peter's Episcopal Church is the fee simple owner of all that certain real properties situate in the City of Salisbury, Wicomico County, Maryland, identified on map 0107, grid 0014, parcel 1032, consisting of 15,064 square feet of land, more or less, and having a premise address of 115 St. Peter Street, Salisbury, Maryland. And whereas Lodge Wicomico number 91 AF and AM is the owner of all that certain real property situate in the City of Salisbury, Wicomico County, Maryland, identified as map 0107, grid 0014, parcel 1038, consisting of 8,136 square feet of land, more or less, and having a premise address of 110 North Division Street, Salisbury, Maryland. And whereas pursuant to the certain lease agreement dated June 9th, 2020, by and between the Masonic Lodge as leaser, thereunder the City of Salisbury as leasee, thereunder the city leases approximately 2,320 square feet of floor space within the building located at the Masonic Lodge property for the city's use in connection with the operations of the Department of Business Development and the Downtown Salisbury Visitor Center. And whereas the city desires to construct and install a concrete handicap access ramp to the rear entrance of the downtown visitor center, and in connection with the ADA ramp to be constructed by the city hereunder, the city desires to obtain the exclusive use of 5 parking spots located on the rear side of the building at the church property. And whereas the terms of the conditions governing the city's use of the Masonic Lodge property and the church property respectively for the city's construction and installation of the ADA ramp, as well as the city's exclusive right to use the 5 church parking spots as aforesaid, are set forth in the certain agreement for construction and maintenance of the ADA ramp by and between the city, the church, and the Masonic Lodge attached hereto and incorporated herein as Exhibit 1. And whereas any and all documents, easements, plats, and/or plans prepared for or in connection with the agreement and the transactions contemplated thereby shall be reviewed and approved by the city solicitor prior to the mayor's execution thereof on behalf of the city.
Thank you, Ms. Glantz. Questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of resolution number 3128, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair votes aye. Resolution number 3128 is approved by a vote of 5-0. At this time, we will have a public hearing, and at this time, I'll call for a motion and a second to approve Resolution 3105.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Blake, Ms. Jackson. Ms. Glantz, will you please read the resolution?
Resolution number 3105, a resolution of the Council of the City of Salisbury proposing the annexation to the City of Salisbury of certain area of land contiguous to and binding upon the corporate limit of the City of Salisbury to be known as East Lincoln Avenue M&L Rentals LLP annexation, beginning for the same point at a corner of the existing corporate limits line of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, being near the northerly right-of-way line of East Lincoln Avenue, and also being near the southwesterly corner of the land of M&L Rentals LLP, being known as Lot A, containing .245 acres more or less. Whereas the City of Salisbury has received a petition for annexation dated May 7th, 2019, signed by at least 25% of the persons who are residents, registered voters, and of the persons who are owners of at least 25% of the assessed valuation of the real property in the area sought to be annexed, binding upon the corporate limit line of the City of Salisbury to be known as East Lincoln Avenue M&L Rentals LLP annexation, beginning for the same point on the westerly side of the South Division Street, said point beginning for the same point at a corner of the existing corporate limits line of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, being near the northerly right-of-way line of East Lincoln Avenue, continuing around the perimeter of the affected property to the point of beginning being all that real property identified as map 0048 parcel 0242, and further being the same real property more particularly described in Exhibit A1 attached hereto and incorporated herein. And whereas the City of Salisbury has caused to be made a certification of the signatures on said petition for annexation, and the City of Salisbury has verified that the person signing the petition represent at least 25% of the persons who are eligible voters and property owners owning 25% of the assessed valuation of real property in the area to be annexed, all as of March 13, 2020, as set forth in the certification by Leslie C. Sherrill, surveyor of the City of Salisbury, attached hereto and incorporated by reference herein. And whereas it appears that the aforesaid petition for annexation dated May 7th, 2019 meets all the requirements for applicable and state local laws. And whereas pursuant to Maryland Code Local Government 4-406, a public hearing on this resolution provided for the City of Salisbury's annexation of the annexed property as set forth herein shall be and hereby is scheduled for September 27th, 2021 at 6 p.m.
Thank you, Ms. Glantz. At this time, please identify yourself if you'd like to speak on behalf of this resolution. Since I don't see any, I will open the public hearing. And I'll ask one more time, is there anybody who wishes to speak on this item? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing, and I will call for the vote on resolution number 3105. All those in favor of resolution 3105, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? And the chair votes aye. Resolution number 3105 is approved by a vote of 5-0. I'll call for a motion and a second to approve resolution number 3106.
So move.
Second.
Ms. Blake, and we'll give that to Mrs. Gregory. Ms. Clamps?
Resolution number 3106, a resolution of the Council of the City of Salisbury proposing the annexation of the City of Salisbury of certain area of land contiguous to and binding upon the corporate limit of the City of Salisbury to be known as East Lincoln Avenue, M&L Rentals LLP annexation, beginning for the same point at a corner of the existing corporate limits line of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, being near the northerly right-of-way line of East Lincoln Avenue, and also being near the southwesterly corner of land of M&L Rentals LLP, being known as Lot A, containing 0.245 acres more or less. Whereas pursuant to the certain petition for annexation dated May 7, 2019, the City of Salisbury proposes the annexation of that certain lot and parcel of land contiguous to and binding upon the corporate limit of the City of Salisbury, beginning for the same point being near the northerly right-of-way line of East Lincoln Avenue, and also being near the southwesterly corners of land of M&L Rentals LLP, being all that real property identified as map 0048, parcel 0242, and further being the same real property, more particularly described in Exhibit A, attached hereto and incorporated herein, and whereas pursuant to Maryland Code Local Government 4-415, the City of Salisbury is required to adopt an annexation plan for the proposed annexation of annexed property, and whereas pursuant to MD Code Local Government 4-406, a public hearing on this resolution providing for the Council of the City of Salisbury's approval of the annexation plan for the City of Salisbury's annexation of annexed property as set forth herein shall be and hereby is scheduled for September 27th, 2021 at 6 p.m.
Thank you. Questions or, excuse me, questions or comments?
None.
Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of resolution number 3106?
Excuse me,
Yes.
got to do the public hearing for that one, too.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yes, on the annexation plan, 3106. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? Okay, seeing none, I will open the public hearing and ask once again, is there anyone that wishes to speak on this topic? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and I'll call the vote on resolution number 3106. All those in favor of resolution number 3106, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair votes aye. Resolution number 3106 is passed by a vote of 5-0. Thank you for catching that, Ms. Nichols. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2681 for the second reading.
So moved. Second.
All right, let me get the motion first, because I had two motions in 2 seconds and they were the same.
Oh,
Synchronized
Go ahead,
voices.
Michelle,
It was me.
you, April. All right, Ms. Jackson made the motion, and all three seconded, but I'll take one. I need one. We'll give to Ms. Blake,
Okay, okay,
okay?
all right.
Mr. Sullivan, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. President. Good evening, members of the council. Before you tonight is ordinance number 2681, an ordinance of the City of Salisbury approving an amendment of the city's grant fund budget to reallocate budgeted matching funds from other grant projects to the Zoo Special Events Pavilion, Phase 2 project. Whereas the FY22 budget ordinance number 2660, Schedule C, included a program open space project titled Resurfacing of Existing Tennis Courts in the amount of $99,000, with a budgeted amount with a budgeted matching amount of $11,000. Whereas the resurfacing of existing tennis courts project was deemed ineligible for POS funding in FY22 by the Maryland Department of Natural Resources, as those tennis courts will not be eligible to receive additional POS funding until FY23. Whereas the Wycomico County Recreation Parks and Tourism Department has agreed to allow the city to redirect the POS funds that were approved for the resurfacing of existing tennis courts project to an alternate project, the Zoo Special Events Pavilion Phase 2 project. And whereas the FY22 budget ordinance number 2660, Schedule C, include a POS project titled New Tennis Complex in the amount of $540,000 with a budgeted matching amount of $60,000. Whereas the new tennis complex project was not approved for POS funding by the Wycomico County Recreation Parks and Tourism Department. And whereas the FY22 budget ordinance number 2660, Schedule C, include a POS project titled Zoo Special Events Pavilion Phase 2 in the amount of $172,357 with a budgeted matching amount of $0. Whereas the Zoo Special Events Pavilion is a multi-phase project, and the Department of Field Operations is seeking to utilize those grant match funds that are no longer required for other POS projects for the Zoo Special Events Pavilion project. Now therefore be it enacted and ordained by the Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland as follows. 1. Decrease amount shown for resurfacing of existing tennis courts project in grant match budget 91001-599120 by $11,000. Decrease amount shown for new tennis complex project in grant match budget 91001-599120 by $60,000. Increase amount for Zoo Special Events Pavilion Phase 2 project in grant match budget 91001-599120 by $71,000.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2681 for the second reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair votes aye. Ordinance number 2681 is approved by a vote of 5-0. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2682 for the second reading.
Second.
Mr. Boda, Ms. Gregory. Mrs. Gregory, sorry. Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ordinance number 2682, an ordinance of the City of Salisbury approving an amendment of the city's general capital project fund budget to reallocate funding for the Zoo Administrative Office Space project. Whereas the FY 2020 budget ordinance number 2539 appropriated $100,000 for the Zoo Administrative project. Whereas the Infrastructure and Development Department estimates an additional $64,000 is required for the project. And whereas interest on bond proceeds in the same bond pool are available to cover the additional funds required. Whereas the Department of Field Operations is seeking to move unused interest to the Zoo Administrative Office Space project. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, that the city's capital projects fund budget be and hereby is amended as follows. 1. Increase the interest revenue 98019-456110-43022 budget by $64,000. Increase the Zoo Administrative Office Space account number 98119-5130026-43022 budget by $64,000.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Questions or comments? As I stated once before, I believe that the administrators will really enjoy not falling through the floor as they walk around their offices. So I'm very happy to see that we're be able to do this because they certainly deserve it. I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2682 for the second reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair votes aye. Ordinance number 2682 is approved by a vote of 5-0. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2683 for the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Jackson, Mrs. Gregory. Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ordinance number 2683, an ordinance of the City of Salisbury approving an amendment of the City of Salisbury's FY22 general fund budget and the grant fund budget to allocate funding from the Community Foundation of the Eastern Shore and general fund grant match for maintenance of the bandstand and bridge in the city park. Whereas the City of Salisbury has the responsibility for maintenance of the bandstand and the historic pedestrian bridge in the city park. Whereas the Community Foundation of the Eastern Shore administers a Salisbury Park Bandstand and Bridge designated endowment fund. And whereas routine maintenance is currently needed on both the bandstand and the bridge, consisting of washing, repairing, and painting the structures. And whereas the CFES Salisbury Park Bandstand and Bridge designated endowment fund has income available for the city to utilize for this required maintenance. Whereas the city wishes to utilize some of the CFES endowment funds to complete the required maintenance. Whereas Section 7-29 of the Salisbury City Charter prohibits the city from entering into a contract that requires an expenditure not appropriated or authorized by the Council of the City of Salisbury. Whereas appropriations necessary to execute the purpose of this grant must be made upon the recommendation of the mayor and the approval of 4/5 of the Council of the City of Salisbury. Now therefore be it enacted and ordained by the Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland as follows. Section 1, Mayor Jacob Bardet is hereby authorized to establish a grant account for the Community Foundation of the Eastern Shore on behalf of the City of Salisbury for the city's acceptance of Salisbury Park Bandstand and Bridge designated endowment fund monies in the amount of $40,000. Be it further enacted and ordained by the Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland as follows. Section 2, the City of Salisbury's grant fund budget be and hereby is amended as follows. 1, increase CFES revenue account number 10500-426-100-XXXXX by $40,000. 2, increase grant match general fund revenue account number 10500-499-000-XXXXX by $5,000. Increase park bandstand and bridge maintenance construction expense account number 10500-513026-XXXXX by $45,000. The City of Salisbury's FY22 general fund budget be and is hereby amended as follows. Increase current year surplus account number 01000-469810 by $5,000. Increase grant match parks account number 91001-599155 by $5,000. Be it further enacted and ordained by the Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland as follows. Section 3 is the intention of the Mayor and Council of the City of Salisbury that each provision of this ordinance shall be deemed independent of all other provisions herein. Section 4 is further the intention of the Mayor and Council of the City of Salisbury that if any section, paragraph, subsection, clause, or other provision of this ordinance shall be adjudged invalid, unconstitutional, or otherwise unenforceable under applicable Maryland or federal law, such adjudication shall apply only to the section, paragraph, subsection, clause, or provision so adjudged, and all other provisions of this ordinance shall remain and shall be deemed valid and enforceable. Section 5, the recitals set forth here and above are incorporated into this section of the ordinance as if such recitals were specifically set forth at length in the Section 5. And Section 6, this ordinance shall take effect from and after the date of its final passage. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2683 for the first reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair votes aye. Ordinance number 2683 for the first reading is passed by a vote of 5-0. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2685 for the first reading.
So move.
Second.
Ms. Jackson, Mrs. Gregory. Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ordinance number 2685, an ordinance of the City of Salisbury to amend Chapter 8.08, brush, weeds, and obnoxious growth, to include the definition and requirements of meadow cultivation and to allow for the cultivation of meadows in the City of Salisbury, Maryland. Whereas the Mayor and Council of the City of Salisbury has determined there is need for periodic review of the City of Salisbury Municipal Code, whereas the Mayor and Council of the City of Salisbury desired to amend Chapter 8.08.080 to permit the cultivation of meadows subject to the terms and conditions provided here and below. Now therefore be it enacted and ordained by the Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland as follows. Section 1, Chapter 8.08 of the Salisbury City Code entitled Rental of Residential Premises be and is hereby amended by adding the bolded and underlined language as follows. Excuse me. That should be brush, weeds, and obnoxious growth. 8.08.0 080, meadow cultivation. Subsection A, meadows are planned, intentional, and maintained planting of grasses and wildflowers that are commonly found in meadow and prairie plant communities, so not to include noxious weeds. The cultivation of meadows shall be exempt from stipulations in section 8.08.010, cutting or removal of grass, weeds, brush, and plant growth if meeting the following conditions. Subsection 1, meadow is managed in a manner so not to become infested with weeds or to create a stagnant, foul-smelling condition. Subsection 2, meadow is managed so not to contain noxious weed growth and must include, at minimum, a majority of plants native to Maryland. Subsection B, definition of noxious weeds. Any annual, biannual, or perennial weed or plant that adversely affects and/or threatens agricultural production. Noxious weeds found in Maryland as defined by the Maryland Department of Agriculture include subsection 1, Johnson grass, subsection 2, shattercane, subsection 3, Palmer amanthorine, subsection 4, common water hemp, subsection 5, Canada thistle, subsection 6, musk thistle, subsection 7, plumeless thistle, and subsection 8, bull thistle. Subsection C, meadow is set back not less than 10 feet from front property line. Subsection D, meadow is set back not less than 5 feet from side and/or rear property line. Subsection E, no meadow setback is required for side and/or rear property line if a fully opaque fence at least 5 feet in height is installed between the meadow and the neighboring side and/or rear property. Subsection F, meadow must be cut to a height no greater than 8 inches a minimum of one time annually between September 15 and March 15. Subsection G, all property owners who desire to participate in cultivating a meadow must first register with the Housing and Community Development Department. Be it further enacted and ordained by the Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland as follows. Section 2 is the intention of the Mayor and Council of the City of Salisbury that each provision of this ordinance shall be deemed independent of all other provisions herein. Section 3 is further the intention of the Mayor and Council of the City of Salisbury that if any section, paragraph, subsection, clause, or provision of this ordinance shall be adjudged invalid, unconstitutional, or otherwise unenforceable under applicable Maryland or federal law, such adjudication shall apply only to the section, paragraph, subsection, clause, or provision so adjudged, and all other provisions of this ordinance shall remain and shall be deemed valid and enforceable. Section 4, the recitals set forth here and above are incorporated into this section of the ordinance as if such recitals were specifically set forth at length in this section 4. In section 5, this ordinance shall take effect from and after the date of its final passage. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Questions or comments?
Just one thing on line 81, it says on the 10th day of May, 2021. It should probably be changed to today. Is it September 27th, 2021?
Ms. Nichols has it. She's got it. Thank you, Mr. Boda. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2685 for the first reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair votes aye. Ordinance number 2685 for the first reading is passed by a vote of 5-0. Motion to approve ordinance number 2686 for the first reading.
So
So moved. Second.
Ms. Jackson, Mr. Boda. Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ordinance number 2686, an ordinance of the City of Salisbury authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for the purpose of accepting additional community development block grant funds in the amount of $17,796 and to approve a budget amendment to the grant fund to appropriate such CDBG funds for the projects outlined in the 2021 CDBG Action Plan. Whereas the Maryland State Office of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development has determined the City of Salisbury qualifies as an entitlement community. Whereas the city is therefore entitled to receive community development block grant funds directly from HUD upon HUD's approval of the city's annual action plan. Whereas the amount of CDBG funding awarded by HUD to the city for PY 2021 was higher than the amount anticipated by the city as set forth in the FY 2022 Schedule C form that was accepted through the city's FY 2022 budget process. Whereas the FY 2022 Schedule C identifies anticipated PY 2021 CDBG funding in the amount of $388,000. However, for PY 2021, HUD awarded the city CDBG funding in the amount of $405,000, $17,796, resulting in an award that is $17,796 more than the anticipated amount of CDBG funding set forth in the FY22 Schedule C. Whereas Section 7-29 of the Salisbury City Charter prohibits the city from entering into a contract that requires an expenditure not appropriated or authorized by the Council of the City of Salisbury. Whereas the appropriations necessary to execute the purpose of the additional $17,796 of CDBG funds awarded to the city by HUD for PY 2021, as provided here and above, must be made upon the recommendation of the mayor and the approval of 4/5 of the Council of the City of Salisbury. Now therefore be it enacted and ordained by the Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland as follows. Section 1. Mayor Jacob Barday is hereby authorized to enter into a grant agreement with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development on behalf of the City of Salisbury for the city's acceptance of community development block grant funds in the amount of $17,796. Be it further enacted and ordained by the Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland as follows. Section 2. The City of Salisbury's grant fund budget be and hereby is amended as follows. Increase CDBG revenue account number 12800-42330-XXXXX by $17,796 and increase CDBG operating expense account number 12800-546-006-XXXXX by $17,796. Be it further enacted and ordained by the Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland as follows. Section 3 is the intention of the mayor and council of the city of Salisbury that each provision of this ordinance shall be deemed independent of all other provisions herein. Section 4 is further the intention of the mayor and council of the city of Salisbury that if any section, paragraph, subsection, clause, or provision of this ordinance shall be adjudged invalid, unconstitutional, or otherwise unenforceable under applicable Maryland or federal law, such adjudication shall apply only to the section, paragraph, subsection, clause, or provision so adjudged, and all other provisions of this ordinance shall remain and shall be deemed valid and enforceable. Section 5, the recitals set forth here and above are incorporated into this section of the ordinance as if such recitals were specifically set forth at length in the Section 5. Section 6, this ordinance shall take effect from and after the date of its final passage. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Questions or comments?
Always good to find a little extra money.
Always nice to
Yes,
come,
it is.
come up with extra cash. Anything else? Okay, thank you. I'll now call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2686 for the first reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The chair votes aye. Ordinance number 2686 for the first reading is approved by a vote of 5-0. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2687 for the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Boda, Mrs. Gregory. Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ordinance number 2687, an ordinance of the City of Salisbury approving an amendment of the city's FY22 general fund budget and the capital project fund budget to allocate funding for the Poplar Hill ADA ramp and bathroom conversion project. Whereas the Poplar Hill Mansion is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Whereas the Maryland Historic Trust and Office of the Maryland Department of Planning must review and approve projects involving rehabilitation or improvements to such historic properties, which includes but is not limited to the Poplar Hill Mansion. Whereas in FY 2021, the city undertook a project to make the Poplar Hill Mansion handicap accessible, to include the conversion of a bathroom and the installation of a wheelchair ramp, both of which were to be compliant with the guidelines set forth by the Americans with Disabilities Act. Whereas the FY 2021 budget appropriated $40,000 for the ADA bathroom conversion and installation of the wheelchair ramp. Whereas the city submitted a request for project approval to the Maryland Historic Trust, which denied the city of Salisbury's request to install a wheelchair ramp. Whereas the Maryland Historic Trust instead requested the city explore alternatives to the proposed wheelchair ramp, such as a wheelchair lift. Whereas the ADA bathroom conversion has been completed and the cost of a wheelchair lift exceeds the available funds remaining in the project account. Whereas the Department of Field Operations estimates an additional $35,000 is required for the project and has determined that there are insufficient funds available in other accounts to transfer to cover the amount required. Whereas the Department of Finance has confirmed that an additional $35,000 is available in the current year surplus, whereas providing ADA compliant access to the Poplar Hill Mansion is critical to future eligibility for grants and other federal benefits. Now therefore be it enacted and ordained by the Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland as follows. Section 1, the City of Salisbury's capital projects fund budget be and hereby is amended. A chart describing The amendments made to the City of Salisbury's Capital Projects Fund budget is provided in subsection 1A of ordinance number 2687, showing that the amendments are made to accounts number 98022-469313-43028 and account number 98122-513026-43028. In addition, the City of Salisbury's FY '22 general fund budget be and is hereby amended as follows. The amendments to the city's FY '22 general fund budget are set forth in subsection 1B of ordinance number 2687, and they regard accounts number 01000-469810, account number 91001-599109. Be it further enacted and ordained by the Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland as follows. Section 2 is the intention of the mayor and council of the City of Salisbury that each provision of this ordinance shall be deemed independent of all other provisions herein. Section 3 is further the intention of the mayor and council of the City of Salisbury that if any section, paragraph, subsection, clause, or provision of this ordinance shall be adjudged invalid, unconstitutional, or otherwise unenforceable under applicable Maryland or federal law, such adjudication shall apply only to the section, paragraph, subsection, clause, or provision so adjudged, and all other provisions of this ordinance shall remain and shall be deemed valid and enforceable. Section 4, the recitals set forth here and above are incorporated into this section of the ordinance as if such recitals were specifically set forth at length in this Section 4. Section 5, this ordinance shall take effect from and after the date of its final passage. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Questions or comments?
I just want to say that this is long overdue, and I'm so excited. Not only is it great for the eligibility for grants and things like that, but I know that there are events at Poplar Hill regularly that I would love to take my family to, but we haven't been able to participate because it's not accessible. So this is huge, and I'm really excited about it.
Thank you. I do have a question. So this money is for the lift. I do have a concern about it, and my concern, and I made this concern known to Sarah and I believe he's the chair of the Poplar Hill Committee. Is that not Sarah? Yeah. And my concern is this. I know that there have been times when groups of people with disabilities have been at the mansion. And my concern is with a lift in an emergency situation, say a fire, that it will only handle one person at a time. And that's a concern of mine. Now, let me also say this, and that would be my preference, is to have a ramp, which could handle multiple people. And having said that, if there were people in there and the fire department was there in a timely manner, which they usually are, we would get them out. There's no question in my mind. It's a question of how we would get them out and what the ramifications of that would be. And it's a major concern of mine. And I recommended at the time that they go back to the, because it has to go before the Historical Commission. And the Historical Commission turned it down the first time. And I said I'd be willing to go and testify as a former fireman of my concerns and ask them to please reconsider. Was that done? Did you go back to the Historical Society and ask them to reconsider putting a ramp in?
We have to present them a plan. A plan has to be presented to them for them to consider a course of action.
My understanding was the direction was to find the ramp that we provided them was denied because of the footprint of it was excessive. It took up the whole area, the whole courtyard area, and went beyond the side of the building, and that was denied. And I personally did not go back and say, oh, would you please reconsider? They reviewed it, they denied it, and they said, you need to find another solution. consider a ramp. We also considered an alternate a lift. We also considered an alternate ramp location. And there is no realistic way to get a ramp in a small footprint with the vertical elevation change that is required that will still provide access to the basement, which was one of Maryland Historical Trust's issues as well. Their concerns was the access to the basement. We are not allowed to go through the kitchen, plus there are structural issues with that addition. That would be a logical place because it is an addition. But unfortunately, the use of it as a kitchen prohibits that for traditional ingress and egress. It's one of those things of a ramp could be used by someone in a walker. They will not be moving fast during a fire either. So it's not like you're going to have this wheelchairs going down at 10 feet per second, down the ramp during an emergency. You could also have a fire in the back of the building that would make the lift and the ramp not a point of egress either. I have to believe that if there is a fire, we will be moving people physically, out of the building, whether it be multiple people carrying the wheelchair down or removing them from the wheelchair. No different than, in 9/11 when people were, they couldn't use the elevators to go down. I understand your concern, but there are just only so many options that are available: a ramp, a lift, an elevator. And if they've told us that the footprint for the ramp is a concern with architectural issues, or would we be digging into something that would prohibit us to even put that ramp in for, that was one of their concerns, and just the size and the mass of it, because it's
Well,
a 60-foot ramp.
Well, I sort of disagree, and I'll tell you why I disagree. I've installed with the Rotary Club over my time probably 15 to 20 ramps, and some of those ramps go through the kitchen. The kitchen.
Well, the door is also too narrow, and
Correct,
structural
which
issues.
means you'd have to put a wider door. I took two of the Rotarians, actually Sarah was there the day I took them over, and we mapped it out, and you can do that with maintaining the grade that's necessary, coming out, making a left-hand turn, going down to the end of the first building, not going anywhere near the basement, making a downward to another level off of that, out towards the garden, and then making a right-hand turn and coming back. And it finishes up, the length of it finishes up exactly at the end of the driveway.
All I can say is that I brought someone out, from from infrastructure and development to review it as well. This wasn't a decision that was solely made by field operations. We brought in our engineering team to review it.
Jack, I agree 100%.
If I may, as someone who has to regularly navigate ramps with a customized wheelchair that is not motorized, I can tell you how slow going it can be going down those ramps, and how sometimes tricky when you have a customized wheelchair that's exceptionally long, like the one we use, that extends a little bit further than average. Getting around those turns left and right, it can take quite a lot of time, especially when it's a long one. Like she said, it's going to be 60 feet long. And I can tell you right now, in the time that it would take for a lift to go down and let someone out, I wouldn't even be at the end of a 60-foot ramp. So that, to me, I think, is not really, as someone who navigates this on a daily basis.
But you would be outside of the building.
Possibly, depending on where, it just depends on where it depends on where the
And more than one
emergency is.
One at a time.
It would depend on where the emergency is, and also, would that be the only access that the emergency responders would have? You know, what if the front was blockaded and they needed to get in and out? You've got men carrying equipment up a 60-foot ramp is what you've got. So, you know, we have to take these things into consideration, and there's no great answer for this. There really isn't. Both options have their drawbacks, and because the lift could break, you know, and we would have to pay to get that repaired, whereas replacing a piece of wood, although with the cost of wood today, it may work out to be about the same. But all I'm saying is that there are drawbacks to both. But the important thing is that we make this facility accessible. And ultimately, that's what we need to be doing here. And I completely understand, but you know, I'm the one that's sitting here that regularly has to navigate these kind of ramps, these kind of, you know, accessibility issues on a daily basis. And I can tell you right now that really, frankly, anybody in the disability community would probably look at this and say, this is a non-issue, like, we need to get this done is the important thing.
I really feel like, I mean, I understood what you just said, but I understand what I'm trying to say as well. If you have a ramp, you could get more than one person outside of that, on that ramp, opposed to having people trapped in a building and taking them out one at a time. Yes.
Okay. And I agree with what you said. This should have been ADA compliant 2 years ago. I have no question and no argument with that. But I'm going on my experience from Lower Shore Enterprises. I'm going on my experience from a fire department, and I'm going on my experience at building ramps. And I will tell you that it is not uncommon in a fire to lose electricity. You lose electricity, that ramp is dead. And I think that we've got to look at the whole thing. And I want to get it ADA compliant as quickly as possible. But I have these concerns, and if the ramp is if the lift is the only choice, based on what I'm hearing, I'll support it to do it because we need to be ADA compliant. But I think we should certainly have the fire department look at it and have them understand what's going to be there in case they have an incident there. But I am disappointed that the alternative that was presented to a member of the board and Sarah was not considered at all. So, having said that, is there any other comments or questions?
So I'm just, now I'm confused now, because we talked a little bit last week about this. So this is just the first reading, a vote for the first reading. When would the fire department go out? When would you go out with them, Jack, or would we know as council?
I don't need to go with them. They know what they're looking at. So I'd be happy to go with them, but I don't need to be there.
Yeah, I mean, they could certainly go out if that's important to this decision point before the next vote. I think it would also make more sense when we're getting ready to install the lift to talk about process and evacuation plans and things like that. But we can make either option work, certainly.
I think that's a good suggestion.
And then does the fire department have anything like in that situation where they could have do they have like a portable ramp or anything like that that could be put in place in case the back is not accessible? Is there something that could be considered to do out the front door?
They're trained. If the ramp was out or the lift was out, they do carry. We do a carry, and everybody would grab somebody and do a fireman's carry and get them out of the building. I mean, that's the last resort.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
The only other option is there's some, I mean, it would be extra work, but if there was portable ramps available for events that could be put into place just in case. I don't know if that's an option. I mean, it's something that could be,
That would not give us ADA compliance because there's got to be a permanent
Gotcha.
installation
Gotcha.
to get that ADA compliance.
Okay, then we'll, if you can get that, have the department look at it and see what give their input. I would appreciate it. We would appreciate it. Sure. Thank you for that suggestion, Angela. All right, let's, at this time then, if there's no more questions or comments, I'll call the motion for the first reading. All those in favor of ordinance number 2687 for the first reading, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Yeah.
The chair votes aye. The vote, ordinance number 2687 for the first reading is passed by a vote of 4-1. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2688 for the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Jackson, Mr. Boda. Mr. Sullivan.
Ordinance number 2688, an ordinance of the City of Salisbury approving an amendment of the City of Salisbury's FY22 general fund budget for the addition of the position of Special Assistant for Intergovernmental Affairs. Whereas the Mayor's Office has determined a need for a new position to be titled Special Assistant for Intergovernmental Affairs. Whereas this position will enable the city to become more effective and efficient in developing new and improved legislation, internal policy for employees, lobbying in Annapolis, securing federal financial earmarks. Whereas to fund the salary and benefits for the remainder of the year, the Department of Finance's estimated $39,600 is required. Whereas the Mayor's Office budget does not currently have sufficient funds to cover the additional costs of the new position. Now therefore be it enacted and ordained by the Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland as follows. Section 1, Subsection A, the City of Salisbury's authorized positions be amended to include an additional position titled Special Assistant for Intergovernmental Affairs and be assigned grade 8. Subsection B, the City of Salisbury's FY22 general fund budget be and is hereby amended as follows. A chart setting forth the amendment to the FY22 general fund budget is provided in ordinance number 2688. The amendment affects accounts number 01000-469810 and account number 12000-501001. Be it further enacted and ordained by the Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland as follows. Section 2 is the intention of the Mayor and Council of the City of Salisbury that each provision of this ordinance shall be deemed independent of all other provisions herein. Section 3 is further the intention of the Mayor and Council of the City of Salisbury that if any section, paragraph, subsection, clause, provision of this ordinance shall be adjudged invalid, unconstitutional, or otherwise unenforceable under applicable Maryland or federal law, such adjudication shall apply only to the section, paragraph, subsection, clause, or provision so adjudged, and all other provisions of this ordinance shall be deemed valid and enforceable. Section 4, the recitals set forth here and above are incorporated into this section of the ordinance as if such recitals were specifically set forth at length in the Section 4. In Section 5, this ordinance shall take effect from and after the date of its final passage.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2688 for the first reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair votes aye. Ordinance number 2688 for the first reading is passed by a vote of 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. President.
At this time, I'll open the floor for public comments. Is there anybody who wishes to speak? We have no requests. Okay, no requests. Then we'll look for the administration comments.
Yes, Council. Today, we had some exciting news. Target and the U.S. Conference of Mayors awarded the City of Salisbury $75,000 for a mental health response grant, working with the police department and mental health providers. We were the small city awarded, but I'd like to name the other 2 cities that were awarded just for perspective. Albuquerque, New Mexico was the mid-sized city, and Dallas, Texas was the large city. So over the coming months, we'll be working to implement that, and an ordinance will come before you, but did want to share that because that's pretty big news. And then on Wednesday, you all should have gotten an invite this evening to our Home is Here press conference for a comprehensive housing program that we are putting forth, and a number of legislative items will be coming before you. So that's at 12. The details are in your email, and the public is invited to that as well. I think we're going to be at Adelet, Coventry Square area. 2 other things. I got my flu shot today, so we're back at flu season, and so get yours. And today there were 50+ positive patients in the hospital with COVID. That's the highest number I've seen in this wave, so we haven't peaked yet, and the hospital is incredibly busy, so do what you can to stay out of there.
Yeah, I think the amount of Wycomico was not the majority of those, I don't think, of the 50. I think there were a lot outside of Wycomico that were hospitalized at Title Health, if I read that right.
Sure, I'm not sure. And one other thing Andy is pointing out is the pedestrian bridge ribbon cutting on Friday at 3 o'clock? 3 o'clock, you'll get an invite for that. That's also a public event as well.
Very good. Thank you.
Busy week.
Thank you. Council remarks for the good of the order, Mr. Boda?
Andy and I survived the Average Joe's run on Saturday.
Really.
Andy was our pacer, so we were not allowed to outpace the pacer. So we made a few pit stops along the way. but
Water stops.
Hydration station
Hydration.
at Mogan's and the Brick Room and
Oh, my
Brody
gosh,
Joe's.
some kind of,
So anyway, we survived. It was a good time. There was about 30 or so people out
Good.
raising some money to help support the free events that we do in the city, such as movie night. And so it was good. It was good to be out, good to exercise. It was fun. So, and I appreciate the stretches you taught us before the race. That was, man. All right, thank you. That was actually one. That was
one of the stretches, I understand. Ms. Jackson?
all I'll say is just stay COVID safe.
Yep. Ms. Blake?
Please watch the school buses. And if you're healthy enough, please donate blood.
Thank you. Mrs. Gregory?
Peace in the Park was last weekend, and it was really nice to see everybody out there. It was gorgeous weather. It was perfect. So it was really nice to get out and see everybody. But I want to remind folks, we are definitely not out of this COVID thing. Please get vaccinated to stay out of the hospital, because there are people who need it who not related to COVID. And if the hospital fills up, they are not going to get the care they need. So please be considerate. It's not just about COVID. It's about protecting people who need to use the hospital for other reasons. Please get your vaccine. And there's word that they might be approving it for children 5 and up very soon. So I'm very glad to see that, and can't come soon enough with the kids in school. So
Thank you. My wife and I are getting our booster on Wednesday, which is great. And I encourage everybody else to do that when you're able to, and the quicker the better. And as Angela said, our favorite topic is give blood. We are not out of the woods. We're still in critical area, and please consider it if you're at all able. So with that, look forward to seeing everyone next week, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.